race, and if you accept the construct of race, then on top of that, you are allowed to have racism when you accept the construct of race. But if we all are human beings, then we can't have racism or racist.
You know, when we look at it, so I'm like you guys, I celebrate American history, which is our history, every month out the year. And I hope that for parents and kids that go home, now we have the internet, now we have tools at our hand. And no, you aren't being taught Black American history in schools, but now we can still go out and find that history. It's not like when we grew up and maybe it was buried someplace in the encyclopedia. All you got to do is go type in some words and you can get it right now and understand where you've come from and how special you are.
Can I just end with this one thing? These four brothers sitting here, we didn't all come from Africa. And there was a country before 1492, and our history goes way beyond 1492. So you can't start us at 1492. We were always here. We were always here.
Paleo Indians, Paleo Americans were the first peoples who entered and subsequently inhabited the Americas. Skipping down, Paleo comes from Greek adjective, Paleos, ancient, old. Okay? Paleolithic. Okay? So, it says indigenous evidence links indigenous Americans to Eastern Siberian populations. And then it says here, indigenous peoples of the Americas have been linked to Siberian biologistic factors, distribution of blood types, genetic composition, such as DNA. And then it says migration. And see, this is the whole out of Africa theory, which we know that's been debunked. We know that's not, accurate, just like what they're saying here. It says archaeologists contend that Paleo Indians migrated out of Beringia. So they're talking about the Native Americans. And it says this time range is the source of substantial debate. Few areas agree arrived to date are the origin of Central Asia. Okay, so that's what they say about that. Then we're going to look at what they have to say about Naya. Native. The definition of native in the online etymology dictionary, and it says from early 15th century, born in a particular place or of indigenous origin or growth, not exotic or foreign, also of pertaining to one by birth. Used from early 15th century in a now obsolete sense of bound, born, in servitude or serfdom. So, native, that's what that was. Or that was one definition coming from Old French natif, woman born in slavery. Applied 1600s to the original inhabitants of non-European nations where Europeans hold political power, for example, American Indians. Used contemptuously of the locals from 1800, natives. And then it says Native American in reference to the Aboriginal peoples of the Americas. Okay, so that's what they say. And let's see if we can find the term Native American. See if they just have that, but just by itself. Okay, so let's look up American. Pertaining to the Western Hemisphere and its Aboriginal inhabitants. And as we already know, the Aboriginal inhabitants is again who? Who are the Aboriginal inhabitants? It's the American. It's American, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans. Now, I feel like the reason why they said races, plural, is because they knew that there were two different groups of people here. The ones who came from Siberia and Beringia, and then the ones that was already here that they called the Negroes. Now, for instance, let's take a look at images of the tobacco Indians. tobacco Indian. Let's see. These are the modern day ones, but that's not how they originally look. Now this is a more older one right here. Now these are ones that will look more like the natives that came from Siberia. This is one that have more of a Negro type of look. Cigar or tobacco store Indian and polycorn walnut. And you see how dark skinned he is, so we know that they're not referring to an Indian that came from Siberia. And then here you go. Here's another Indian. And then here's another one. And you see that he has pitch black skin and curly hair. Now this is the other Indian. These are the Paleo Indians, the mound builders, the people who had built the mounds, the people who had built the mounds, the people who had built the pyramids that the Native Americans, the ones that they said they came from Siberia, the ones that they saw here on the land already. And these are the Indians that Columbus and the Spaniards and the Portuguese had called Negro, the Terra, meaning the blacks of the land, as you already know from my previous video. Okay, so let's see if I can find another one that looks similar to him. Like this one right here, another one. You see his headdress? And how he has the tobacco kilt around his waist. See, this is an Indian, and he's a dark copper color complexion. And these were the ones that they called Negroes, and these are also the ones that they had enslaved in the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th century. Okay, and so these are the Indians that we come from. And then, let's see, I wasn't trying to click on him, but let's see, this one right here. Now this is in the Virginia Museum, and this is Chief Powhatan. That's Chief Powhatan. And he clearly has a Negro phenotype, and he has the same type of crown on his head, just like the other tobacco Indians. So next, I'm going to be showing you, images of Naya and the image of another Paleo Indian woman that they would have referred to as Negroid. And then I'm going to be reading to you an article by James Chatters of him talking about the Paleo Indians and how their phenotype is and how they look Negro. Okay, researchers unveil reconstructed face of ancient American Indian by National Geographic. Now, when you look at her phenotype, she doesn't look anything like the people that they call Native Americans, the people that they said that migrated here from Siberia and Beringia. She has a clear Negro-looking type of face, by looking at the cheekbones and looking at the way that her nose is shaped and even the way that her mouth is shaped. Okay, it says researchers unveil reconstructed face of ancient American Indian, the remains of Naya, the human skeleton found off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, has been reconstructed by artists to provide a hypothetical image of what she looked like. A clay model of her face was presented in the January 2015 issue of National Geographic magazine. And the Greek word for water nymph. and she was underwater in a sinkhole called Rio Negro, about 20 miles north of the ancient Mayan city of Tolum. And we know that the Mayans, and I think it's the Bonaparte area, that they have paintings of the Mayans of being dark color, copper colored people, chocolate, reddish brown color, some of them like a light copper color complexion with dreadlocks and stuff like that. But anyways, it says, I'm skipping down, and it says the remains of Naya are the most complete ancient skeleton that have been found to date in the Americas. Mitochondrial DNA extracted from the skeleton's wisdom tooth found it belonged to haplogroup D, found in about 11% of living American Indians. This has helped to settle the debate as to whether living Native Americans are descended from Paleo Indians, ancient Indians. So, there it is right there. She's an ancient one. She's an ancient Indian. Okay? And it says here, it says part of the reason there was a debate about this at all was the earlier Paleo Indian remains did not have Northeast Asian facial features, which was to be expected under the prevailing Bering Strait theory. Indian migrations, which presumes Indians and Northeast Asians are closely related. Okay. And then it says the new facial reconstruction likewise does not support any Asian relationship, as according to the scientists have examined. Her skull has a shape associated with African or South Pacific populations rather than the typical Siberian look. Scientists also claim the facial features do not correspond to modern American Indians, although the constant groupings of Indians and incredibly diverse people whose diversity extends throughout the hemisphere into one type is one of scientists' greatest shortcomings. So in other words, the reason why it's a shortcoming is because they try to say, or they want to say, that the American Indians, that they had a particular type of look that only came from Asian people from, I believe they said, Northeast Asia. And so now, by them finding her, this really had really upset a lot of things and had really disrupted a lot of the lies that they try to tell and try to bring forth into the community about how the American Indians, how they looked and who was here and stuff like that.
In this video, I'm going to show how ignorant those who choose to attack Turtle Gang are in regards to the Bering Strait migration theory. A theory that was taken directly from one of our migration stories. When I say our, I'm speaking about the Lenni Lenape. So, it is reported that new evidence disproves the theory. A new study published in Science Advances journal on May 13th provides more evidence that the established scientific dogma regarding the peopling of the Americas is deeply flawed. The study entitled Pre-Clovis Occupation 14,550 years ago at the Page Lansing site, Florida, found stone tools and mastodon bones together underwater in the Aucelia River near Tallahassee, and proved conclusively that people butchered or scavenged a mastodon at least 1,500 years earlier than previously expected. This discovery places ancient Indians in Florida before passage to the Americas from Asia through the Bering Land Bridge. The Page Lansing site, in a bedrock sinkhole more than 26 feet underwater, have been extensively excavated over the past 35 years. S. David Webb, a paleontologist then at the University of Florida, and James Dunbar from Aucelia Research Institute, co-author of the new study, investigated the site and retrieved several stone tools and a mastodon tusk with unusual cut marks. Because they were in the part of the tusk that would have been inside the skull of a mastodon, thus suggesting that it was extracted by humans in a layer more than 14,000 years old. However, the findings received little attention because they were believed to be so old that they contradicted the prevailing scientific consensus. Between 2012 and 2014, Dunbar and his researchers excavated the bones of extinct animals and stone tools, including a biface, a knife with sharp edges on both sides that is used for cutting and butchering animals. The evidence was largely dismissed until the age of the site was finally confirmed by the radiocarbon dating of plant materials found in the dung of the mastodons, plus the discovery that the layer containing the tools was sealed off by another layer on top that was also older than 14,000 years. Daniel C. Fisher, a paleontologist at the University of Michigan, joined the investigation to reanalyze the tusk. He confirmed that the marks were made exactly where people would have had to cut through a tough ligament to remove the tusk from a carcass and could not have been made any other way. Clearly the result of human activity, and together with the new radiocarbon dates, they indicate that humans were processing a mastodon carcass in what is now the southeastern U.S. much earlier than generally accepted.
So we've got to re-examine everything we thought we knew. So it's kind of opened up this whole new world of First American studies.
Let's look closely at what this new evidence actually disproves. The Bering Land Bridge is a postulated route of human migration to the Americas from Asia about 20,000 years ago. An open corridor through the ice-covered North American Arctic was too barren to support human migration before 12,600 years ago. That's important. Before 12,600 years ago. A common misconception is that the Bering Strait freezes in the winter and is easy to walk across the ice, finally reaching the far side of the strait. That in itself is very wrong, as is the concept that the Bering Strait is responsible for the settling of America. The first settlement of the Americas began when Paleolithic hunter-gatherers first entered North America from the North Asian Mammoth Steppe via the Beringia Land Bridge, which had formed between northeastern Siberia and western Alaska due to the lowering of sea level during the last glacier maximum. What is wrong about this statement is that it claims the first settlement of people in America is a result of the migration across the Bering Strait. Here's the science. Genetic differences. A dominant theory suggests the ancestors of Native Americans crossed the Bering Strait about 15,000 years ago and quickly colonized North America and then South America. But in 2007, genetic researchers found that almost all Native Americans in North and South America shared genetic mutations in their mitochondrial DNA, which is the genetic information that's carried in the cytoplasm of the egg and passed on through the maternal line. None of the mutations show up in Asian populations from which the Native American ancestors diverged, said study co-author John Hefferker, an archaeologist and paleontologist of the University of Colorado, Boulder. Genetic evidence also suggests that some northern populations, such as the Inuit, likely came over in a second wave separate from the ancestors of Native Americans. Given the rate at which such mutations occur, the findings suggested a single Native American founding population must have been isolated from its Asian ancestors for thousands of years before dispersing throughout the Americas. So when we look at what has actually been disproved, it is not that the Bering Strait migrations didn't happen. The scientific findings prove that the Bering Strait migrations are not responsible for peopling the original Indian population of the Americas. It does not say that the Bering Strait migration didn't occur. Once